will provide further clarity of the reforms that are ongoing in that sector. While reforms of any kind often involve short-term adjustments that could be painful, we are already seeing encouraging signs of progress. Investor confidence is returning across key sectors of the economy. Inflation has halved since 2023. Now, this is a very significant thing that I think we need to talk about. Both headline inflation and food inflation are all down in our country, beating our own expectation. That is a clear indication that indeed the reforms are working. We are also seeing trade surplus. We are also seeing the central bank's purchasing managers index, that is a key indicator of the health of Nigeria's manufacturing and service sector, has now seen 15 consecutive months of expansion. 15 consecutive months. Nigeria's external reserves have strengthened significantly, crossing the $15 billion mark as of February of 2026. Now, this has not happened in the last 13 years, where you have our external reserves. When the president took office, our external reserves stood at about $4 billion. 3 point something, less than $4 billion. Today, that has been grown to over $50 billion. The first in 13 years. According to the Central Bank of Nigeria, $3.5 billion of these reserves are now in gold holdings as part of efforts to deepen economic diversification. It was zero before, now we have $3.5 billion of these reserves in gold holdings. Now, this also indicates that we are diversifying our financial sector. Across Nigeria, major infrastructure investments are underway to strengthen economic connectivity and national integration. Flagship projects including the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway, which will become one of the largest coastal infrastructure corridors in Africa, and the Sokoto-Badagry Superhighway is designed to improve the east-west economic connectivity. Now, what is significant about the construction of this road, especially the Sokoto-Badagry Highway, is that in the process, there are going to be about 60 dams to be constructed along that corridor. It's going to traverse about half of the states of this country. 60 dams coming up, and this means improved irrigation activity as a result of investment in the agricultural sector, and also improvement in the power supply that we dearly need for industrialization to take hold in Nigeria. So it's not just about constructing roads, it is about connecting people. It is also about ensuring that we do have economic activity growing in that in those sectors, especially along the states in the corridor. There is also the Ajaokuta-Kaduna-Kano gas pipeline, which has reached over 90% in terms of the of completion. When completed, it will be Nigeria's largest gas pipeline network, significantly expanding gas supply to industries and power plants across the northern parts of the country. In the power sector, the Presidential Power Initiative, Presidential Metering Initiative, and the new Grid Asset Management Company are among the major pillars of an ongoing revamp and expansion of critical sector, especially in the power, critical infrastructure, especially in the power sector. Nigeria's young population remains one of the country's greatest assets. The administration has prioritized human capital development as a foundation for long-term prosperity. For the first time in decades, Nigeria now has a national student loan program, the Nigerian Education Loan Fund, NEL Fund for short, which now benefits over 1 million higher education students, allowing them to pursue education without the burden of out-of-pocket tuition and payments. What this simply means is that about 1 million Nigerian young men and women who will ordinarily be out of school on account of the inability of either of their parents to pay for their school fees or to pay for their upkeep while they are in higher institution, are now being put into higher education on just that, on an account of that just simple policy that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was instituted. And he continues to say that we will continue to expand it. The President has said for as long as he is there, no any young man and woman will be out of school simply on account of the inability of his parent or guardian to pay for his upkeep or to pay for his tuition. I think this is unprecedented, and we need to that. Now, security remains a top priority of the administration. Nigeria continues to confront complex security challenges, including terrorism in the northeast, banditry in parts of the northwest, and criminal networks engaged in kidnapping and organized crime country. Let me emphasize that the Nigerian government is confronting head-on this very complex security challenge. And we know that this is not something that can go away overnight, but it is critical and it is important that government is confronting it without any denial, but also ensuring that we are on a march gradually, steadily towards eradicating this country of this menace. Now, let me say that for emphasis, because of the kind of interest this has generated at home, and for you here in diaspora, and for many members of the national community, Nigerian government is not denying the fact that we have this security challenge. What we are saying is that we need understanding of our complex security situation so that we can solve this issue completely once and for all. Nigeria is also proud of its long tradition of religious diversity and coexistence. Our constitution guarantees freedom of religion and belief, and Nigeria is a country that has multiple faiths, people of different faiths that live and work together peacefully across the country. If you look at the structure of Nigeria, as you all know, you have Muslims, you have Christians, you even have people who may not believe in anything at all, working harmoniously together to ensure that we have a peaceful and united country. And let me use this opportunity to once again clarify that Nigeria is not a country that has no tolerance when it comes to religious freedom. Yes, we have this complex security challenge, and religion sometimes plays a part in that. Of course, this is also in addition to other factors that create these security issues. But we are a country that guarantees freedom of faith for anyone who is a Nigerian or who lives in Nigeria, and that Nigerian government will continue to ensure that everyone is given that freedom to practice his or her religion. The government of Nigeria remains secular, inclusive, and protective of all rights of its citizens. Nigeria's diversity is not a weakness. It is one of our greatest strengths and a powerful foundation for our national unity. Nigeria also continues to play a leading role in regional and global affairs. As one of Africa's most influential nations, Nigeria contributes actively to peacekeeping, regional diplomacy, and international cooperation. Our country remains committed to working with global partners to address shared challenges, including climate change, energy, security, migration, and counter-terrorism. Nigeria remains open and welcoming to responsible investors from around the world. The government policies continue to support investment through regulatory transparency, tax incentives, and full repatriation of profits. We value our long-standing partnership with the United Kingdom, and we look forward to strengthening collaboration in the years ahead. Indeed, the visit of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to the United Kingdom 2 or 3 days from now is going to further strengthen the relationship that Nigeria has with the United Kingdom. It is important that we need to state that this is the first state visit, as you all know, that is happening in 37 years, almost 4 decades. So it is pertinent and important for us to make the best of it. Nigeria and United Kingdom are very strong partners, and we will continue to build on that trend, to build on the relationship on economic, cultural, and other terms, so that the two countries will continue to benefit from it. I want to pause here and to thank you for listening and to tell you that these are just snippets of the kind of reforms that are happening in Nigeria. If we talk about them, we will not live here this night. So I've just run through some of these major ones for us to understand the direction that Nigeria is going, and to also ask you for questions if you have any, and then we'll be happy, and all the government officials on this table, including the Honorable Minister and all these 2 special advisors and special assistants here, will provide these clarifications for you. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Bayo, another job. But before that, would the Honorable Minister for Minerals, a word from you, sir?
Let me say, in the course of my speech, I said that because of the reform ongoing, not just in the oil sector, in other areas, especially in the President's drive to diversify our economy and create the enabling environment in the non-oil sector, the Ministry of Solid Mineral Development is leading that drive. Therefore, we are lucky that we have the Honorable Minister of Solid Mineral Development who will provide some clarity for you in that sector. So we will start with him. Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, my dear brother. I call him the Honorable Minister of Critical Information, because he calls me Honorable Minister of Critical Minerals. You know, in the mineral sector, we have rare earth elements, we have critical metals, and we have solid minerals, and we have all kinds of stones, gems, and stuff. However, it's a pleasure for me to be here with you this evening, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, this is an aside. When I came into this premises and I entered the morning, a wave of nostalgia swept through me, because I recall more than 30 years ago, 35 years ago, when we were in the throes of the democratic struggle in Nigeria. And some of us as media gatekeepers then were inexorably drawn into the struggle. And I'm also happy that one of us in the trenches then, a very strong one too, is here with me on this table, Mr. Bayo. And then we were driven out on exile by the military. I was editor of the Concord newspaper, owned by the winner of the June 12 election, Chief M.K. Abiola. And of course, I was in the saga, involved in the entire June 12 saga from inception to we had a break. It hasn't ended because there is a continuation of it, but that's for another day. But this very hotel was one of the premises that we used to propagate the struggle, to aggregate views, opinions, and mobilize people, and enlighten Nigerians and the world in diaspora as it were then. So when I came in and I felt that a sense of what we say, not necessarily nostalgia, but a kind of feeling, an emotional feeling oozing out of me. So, pardon my aside. But more importantly, what we are doing here today, for me, is a continuation of what we started 35 years ago. And that was in 1993. And I tell people that the war to occupy the presidential villa in Nigeria, for us, for those of us in the Asiwaju political system, began in 1993 with the June 12 election and the aftermath, annulment, and the subsequent struggles. And in between 1993 and 2003, exactly 30 years, we had several battles, both in Nigeria, here, the US, and all over the world. So, the philosophy behind the June 12 movement at that time, we were also involved in the preparation of the manifesto of June 12, which was titled Farewell to Poverty. And if you recall, our president today was a pillar of that struggle. And so when he came into office as a governor of Lagos State in 1999, that farewell to poverty was the ground norm of the programs, the policies that we executed in Lagos State at that time. And of course today you know the result, as manifested by the giant leaps of Lagos State. Today Lagos State is among the 5 largest economies in Africa, the states. And when Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu resumed in 1999, I recall I was a member of that cabinet for the 8 years he was governor. And I recall that when we resumed, the revenue accruable to the state then was about 600 million naira per month. And the wage bill we had over 48,000 people in the civil service structure. The wage bill then was about 1.2 billion. So it meant in essence that we had a shortfall of almost half. And this man put on his thinking caps and drove those of us, members of his executive council, and we worked assiduously with remarkable celerity and plugging the leakages, blocking the loopholes. The revenue started growing and growing to 5 billion, to 8 billion, and today, of course, is well over the 60 billion naira per month in Lagos State. And it's the same mechanism that he instituted, an enduring mechanism, and his financial structure that he put in place then, that has been followed to the letter, which has led to the phenomenal growth of that state's revenue profile and financial stability. And when we came into office 2.5 years ago, thereabout, in 2023, and right on the stage during his inauguration, you recall he made the announcement that was very pivotal and important, which was a radical paradigm shift from what had happened in the past, which my friend and brother had alluded to, the removal of this fuel subsidy, which had been a hydra-headed monster that was stultifying the growth of Nigeria economically, socially, politically for over 40 years. And no single president had the guts, the courage, and the boldness to take the decision that was necessary, painful but necessary. And so we plunged into that crisis, in quotes, because the public itself was not used to that kind of dynamism in governance. And for those of us who had been adept and very familiar with Asiwaju's governance structure and model and style, we knew that we were on the right course. And we came out and told the people, the public, that look, if you are restructuring an economy, it's like panel beating a vehicle that's been damaged. and you all have vehicles. When you take your vehicle to the mechanic workshop and they have to do pilot beating, they will use some kind of hammer and stick or whatever, their gadget, to hammer and beat the damaged portion of that vehicle. But when they are beating it, if that car were to have life, it will feel pain. But by the time the beating is completed and the smoothing is done and the painting is put in there, you won't see a dent. And that's exactly the kind of analogy that I will use to explain the restructuring of an economy, and which now gave rise to the hues and cries of the public. Oh, everything is costly, life is difficult, we haven't seen this before, oh, this government is this, is that. And each time the Minister of Information called us ministers to come and explain, I always use Lagos State as an example. That when we started restructuring the economy of Lagos State in 1999, the same hue and cry rented the air. We were actually being booed on the streets of Lagos simply because we were plugging the loopholes and blocking the leakages. Now, those who are profiting from the leakages and the loopholes will not fold their hands, they will fight back, they will push back, and they will exploit the ignorance of the unsuspecting and susceptible public. And that's exactly what happened in Nigeria at a higher level, in the federal sector. People started shouting. And I said that, look, even Asiwaju himself uses this analogy, which I will give to you. A woman in the labor ward, going through the excruciating pains of labor, wanting to deliver, will be crying. But immediately the baby pops out, there is calmness and joy of holding the newborn baby replaces the excruciating pain. And of course, the woman can't wait to be pregnant again. That's exactly what is going on. When we go through the preparations, we as citizens must be resilient. We must be patient, because Rome wasn't built in a day. And I tell my younger people that I mentor, you know, there is this Japa syndrome that everybody wants to bail out of Nigeria because of the economic situation, which is temporary. And I tell them that the countries you want to bail out to, UK, Europe, America, anywhere, the developed societies, didn't wake up one day and became developed. They had to go through the crucibles. And there is no shortcut to development. You must go through the crucibles. And because Nigeria has never had, until now, a president bold enough to take the right decisions, and that's why we're going through the crucibles now. We ought to have gone through this phase like 30, 40 years ago. And by now, we should be at the tertiary level of economic progress. But because we weren't lucky to have such a president as Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And I'll tell you one other thing. This is the first time in the history of Nigeria that we will have a president who is financially savvy, who understands public finance, who himself is a finance person. And that's why you can see all the policies around the economy gravitating towards progress and upward mobility. Now, specifically in my own sector, you recall that before 2023, hardly did anyone understand or recognize the fact that we had huge potential from the solid mineral sector in Nigeria. In fact, when I embarked on aggressive marketing of the sector globally, people used to ask me, you mean you have solid minerals in Nigeria? Because Nigeria was identified with oil.